Joining us for a closer look at the crisis in Iran is Richard Bulliet, a professor of Middle East history at Columbia University. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
We just heard this report that was sort of outlining the security forces in Iran. Why are they so determined to crack down on the protesters? Is it based solely on their loyalty to President Ahmadinejad?
These are military forces. They have a chain of command. They're loyal to their officers. So part of it is loyalty. But there's also a deep economic interest that the Revolutionary Guards have. They have benefited as a group from the economic controls that they are able to exercise in parts of the Iranian economy, and I don't think they want to lose that privilege.
Many of these members that make up the Revolutionary Guard, that make up some of the other forces, they actually come from lower classes?
They tend to come from a somewhat lower social stratum, and many of them, of the more senior ones, fought in the Iran-Iraq War. They see these demonstrators as being young and irresponsible people who did not make sacrifices for the revolution in the way they did.
And they also are not opposed then to using their position. They expect to get some financial gain?
I think that ultimately there is an economic issue here in which the Revolutionary Guards and their leaders are going to benefit from the economic structures of the country.
So preserving the status quo for them also helps them with their living?
Yes, the foundations that they have a strong role in account for a very large share of the economy in that part of the economy that is not in the oil sector.
We should point out that Mr. Savidge, who is the opposition here, one of those, he's called for more protests tomorrow, more protests later in the week. But given the harsh crackdowns, are we likely to see these protests end?
I think that the rationale has to be, now that the Guardian Council has said they will not annul the elections, and the crackdowns have been coming, that if the protests continue, I think there must be a hope that the ruling mullahs will begin to divide and begin to put pressure on the Supreme Guide to take some further steps to deal with the crisis.
What do you think those mullahs, those clerics, are thinking these days? Where is their thought in all of this crisis they face?
I think for an awful lot of them, it's, thank heavens I'm not in the firing line. Khamenei is the one who is out there. He has to do things, and I think many of them don't feel that he is perhaps the man for the job, but he's the man who is in the job.
President Obama spoke out today, and the comments he made were strongly in support of those who've been protesting. Do you think the president's been responding appropriately, speaking out enough?
I think the president was right on target, and particularly when he emphasized that this is an internal issue in Iran that was generated out of the feelings of Iranian voters, that it's not something that has anything to do with foreign policy.
Richard Bulliet, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.